Right, today I'm going to show you how to debone, stuff and smoke a whole chicken. I'm going to start off with the best quality bird that you can find. This is a Norfolk Black and it's a decent size. It's sort of like 1.5 kilos. It's just easier to work with. The bigger ones just gets more fiddly with the small ones. I don't claim to be sort of any sort of expert in doing this, by the way. You could just get your butcher to do it, but I'm going to show you how you can do it, even not having the right knife. What you really want is a boning knife, but any sort of thin, sharp knife like that will do the job. To start off with, we're going to nick off these sort of like bottom of the leg, ankle, whatever you want to call it, just at the joint there. So it should be fairly easy to remove these, he says. There we go. Once you find the joint, you can just pop straight through. And that's important. If you take that off there, that's going to mean that when we come to take this drum bone out later, that being exposed there, that joint, is going to make it much, much easier. Now, we are cheating a little bit because we are going to take the wings off. You can debone the wings as well. It is a bit of a mission, but if you like me, you love wings, you can just cook these separately, or they're going to make a great addition to the stock pot as well. But I'm just going to take those off for today, just to make life easy. Again, try and catch them right on the joint there. Okay, if you pop them out like that, you can just help it along with your knife. It's important you have a super sharp knife for this, otherwise you're going to struggle. All right, okay, so we've got the ankles off and we've got the wings off. So this is the breast. We want to work around that, so we're going to turn it over now. So this is the sort of the tailbone here. I'm going to remove that too. Well, not even a bone, it's sort of just like a big flap of skin, really. Take that off. Okay, and then now, so we're going to find, this is this chicken's spine here, so we're going to work around that. So first of all, I'm just going to run down just slightly down the one side of it, just gently removing that skin. Okay, so what we're going to do now is start to work the knife along the bottom of the rib cage. So just taking your time. There is no rush to do this. Now I can feel I've gone the wrong side of it. There's a bone here. So I just need to go the other side of it, which is fine. The important thing here for wrapping this later is that we keep the skin intact. So just take your time, because if that knife starts going through the skin all over, you're going to really struggle to kind of keep all your juices in. And also it just kind of helps to pull everything together when we roll it. So just going to work down now, all the way down towards the thigh. Okay, so keeping the knife tight to the bone. And it's good to sort of get so far on this, I find, and then switch to the other side. So you see I'm kind of getting quite deep now, and that's starting to become underneath the breast here, all right? So we will hit a wishbone at the front here at some point, which I tend to try and remove a bit later on. All that skin, just pull that back, work around here. We're going to repeat that on the other side now before we progress any further around that breast. Okay, so we kind of work behind the spine. You can see where that's just basically being opened up. So this is all bone, this is all rib cage here. You start to use your hands. So this is the thigh. At this point, I can feel, that's the thigh joint I've hit there. So that's as far as I can go for now, because we're going to take that bone out later on. So what we're going to do is move towards the front. So I can feel this wishbone here, the front. So I'm just going to get the knife under there and just release that. Run the knife along the wishbone. It's a bit of a pain, this bone, because it kind of goes into the breast. So you just got to work around it with the knife again. And this is the other side of it. So just going to feel my finger. Feel it with my finger there. This is the bone here. So right up to the top of that wishbone. And there are probably butchers watching this wincing at me, but you know, I don't claim to be a pro, but I will certainly have a go. Right, so we're at the top of that wishbone now, which is great. So further along, you know that you kind of get that piece of cartilage that you see when you carve your chicken. That's where we're hitting now. Just going to make sure that all that meat is released from the underside. There we go, as we go, running along the bone all the way. Being really careful not to pierce that skin, so take your time. Now the underside of this might look a bit messy in a minute, but ultimately it's going to be that's not what you're going to see, and it's all going to be rolled up anyway. So it doesn't really matter if you've got slashes in that breast meat, you know, from the knife where you've hacked away at this, because it's going to be removed. Okay, so we've come right to the end of the rib cage now. I'm just going to try and release that all the way down to the bottom there. And now is the point where we pull that thigh joint out. So it's popped, you see that one's popped out there, and same on the other side. Just pop that out. And that should mean that this is now completely separate from the rest of the bird. And this side. Just like that, we've removed the rib cage. There's not much meat left on that at all. You wouldn't want to eat that flap of skin. All that meat is still in here. Now I know it looks a bit of a mess, but there's your two breasts. And as I say, if the knife's attacked it a little bit on the inside, doesn't matter, but the skin is all intact. And that's the important bit, okay? Okay, so we're going to remove this thigh bone now. So just with the knife, just going to gently run it along that thigh until we expose the bone, like so. Okay, as I say, you could get your butcher to, if this is looking complicated, you could easily get your butcher to just debone a chicken for you. But it's good to learn how to do these things and have a go. Right, so there's the joint. You can see that joint moving there, so we're just going to release that. So that joint is now separate. It's literally just a case of, you know, working around with your knife just to release that bone now. There's always bits of cartilage and stuff in the leg, so you've got to be patient. It's not an easy job. But again, I think you'll see it's almost come out now. You don't want to leave any cartilage behind either, because it's not going to eat well. So we'll cut that out in a second. But not much meat left on that bone. Okay, and then if you just feel, I can just feel there's a couple of sort of nuggets of cartilage there, which I'm just going to remove as well, because we want this to be completely sort of edible when we slice this deboned chicken later on. You don't want any little bits, so that's just, you can just feel it with your fingers, bits of cartilage, get rid of those. So now all we're left with is the drum bone, which we're going to kind of tunnel. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. People cut it out like I just have, or you can kind of tunnel around it. So you work the knife all the way around the outside of that bone, and this is where a boning knife would really come into its own, because it's like thinner than this, and you can sort of poke it round and not cause too much damage to the flesh. Okay, but basically what you're going to do is to get it, cut that down that side as well. Just didn't quite release the meat that side. And this is, again, as I say, a boning knife. You kind of run that all the way around the outside, and then we're just going to push down on that bone. Okay, and then pull it upside down and out. Okay, so that's the drummer. And then what you need to do is just get your finger where it came out. We're just going to poke all that back. So that's the leg, boneless leg. And then we go again on the other side. Normally, you know, if you this is going to end up with like these chicken cushions that you kind of see in the butchers. And we would roast those at quite a high temperature, and all the skin is going to render, right? But we're going to smoke this today. We're going to do it at a slightly lower temperature than we would normally when we're roasting the chicken. But what you find when you sort of slow cook a chicken, that the skin won't crisp up, or it won't sort of break away when you bite it, because basically the fat doesn't render, right? But what a little trick that I learned from the competition barbecue community, when they make their chicken thighs, one of the main things that you have to do to impress the judges is have bite through skin. Okay, so what they do, and it's a meticulous job, it takes ages and everyone hates it, but what they do is literally they will peel the skin back off of the meat, like I'm about to do now, and then what we do is scrape the excess fat from underneath the skin away. So you're left with this really super light skin that's literally got no fat in it, but what it does is hold in flavour, but it also allows us to get some rub underneath that skin as well. So we're going to be able to double up on the flavour. So I'm just going to very carefully now release this where I need to. And those drummers are merging underneath. So now, as I say, looks like something from a horror movie now, this. But we've got that skin completely rolled back. I've left on just a little bit around the bottom of those ankles, just so that you can pull it back on in the right position. Or like this here, so you've got to just gently work it with a knife, and you can scrape. You see this all coming away like that, okay? Now if you can remove all of that, you're going to get this bite through competition style skin. No, you really don't have to do this. You could just cook it hot and fast, but you're not going to get the same amount of smoke flavour into it as if you know, if it's in the smoke for longer, you get a smoky chicken. Okay, so I think I'm pretty much there. There's still a little bit that probably could be removed, but you know, we're not entering any competitions here, but you can see the board through that now, yeah, because most of that fat has been removed. There's a whole load of it there. Chicken fat's delicious, so that can go in with those bones, and I'm sure it'll be used elsewhere. Gonna go in with some Pig and Palate Smokehouse General Rub. Met these guys at Pub in the Park earlier this year. Super nice guys, and I really like this rub. So you can use any rub you like. Oh, just gonna make sure that you don't get, you know, if there's any lumps in there, it's been sat in my cupboard for a little while. Just break that down. But I love the idea of getting the rub underneath the skin, because it's like double flavour, you know? It's so hard to get that kind of, especially if you're gonna smoke it, you know, with the crispy skin, getting the rub to come through is difficult, but doing it like this means that we get that extra flavour. And when we pull the skin back over in a second, you're going to be able to see that rub coming through the skin. You ready? Yeah. So I'm going to pull that back over the chicken. Okay. And all of a sudden, once you can see that rub coming through the skin there? Okay, so I've just got some, this is left over from a long time, I think maybe from Christmas in the freezer, but it's really handy to have some sausage meat you can kind of just squeeze out like this. Okay, we want to fill that gap, because that's almost like a piece where between the two breasts, the sausage is going to become almost like the third breast, if you like. Now, a burrata, if you haven't tried it, it's very, very sort of delicate, okay? And that would burst even now, so I have to be super careful with it. So I'm going to make a little bed for that to sit in, like that. There we go. Right, we're going to go in with a bit more rub. Let me just, not too much, because as I say, we're already seasoned. The sausage meat is already seasoned, so we don't need to be adding in too much more salt. Going to kind of come in the thighs first. I'm going to make sure you'll see that I've pushed the sausage meat all the way around. That's going to kind of protect this burrata in the middle, and also stop the juices from coming out, hopefully. See, it almost started to burst there. Just got to be a little bit careful. I think I'm going to turn it over, like so. Looking like that's looking pretty good. You just kind of try and tuck the edges in. I'm aware of just how delicate that cheese is in the middle. Okay, so we're going to take some butcher string. Just scooch that right into the middle. Make sure it's central. Okay, bring it over. Just gonna tie it, not too tight, but tight enough that it ain't going anywhere. You want to almost see a little pinch, just like that. Okay, we're going to do this several times in every angle. Right, so now we're just going to hit this with more rub on the outside. Again, just need to make sure that it's been in your cupboards, as long as this has been in my cupboard, then you need to just make sure you haven't got massive lumps. I'm going to rub that all over. And then we're going to finish it halfway through the cook with the spiced apple barbecue sauce that I've developed. But obviously there's quite a bit of sugar in that. So even though it's a vinegar-based sauce, I'm not going to add it straight away because it'll burn. Okay, so we're going to glaze that on probably when we hit around about 50°C internal. Okay, and we're going to know when we hit 50°C internal because we're going to use our meter probe. Just going to turn that on. Slide it into what I think is the breast there, but ultimately it doesn't. If it's cooked, if it's hot in the middle, we know we're there. I'm just going to be very gentle. I don't really want to pop that cheese, although now it's in the middle, it shouldn't matter too much. Okay, so we've got that in. And then what I also am going to do to sort of stop, obviously that burrata, as I said, is very, very delicate. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to drop this whole thing into a little pan. And then we're going to drop that onto the Kamado indirect and cook it at around about 150 until the meter tells us that it's ready. Right, while we wait for the chicken to cook, I'm going to prep some really, really simple smoked sweet potato wedges. I've got two varieties of sweet potatoes here. I've got the white variety and the sort of normal orange variety. I like that sort of mix. All you need to do is literally quarter these. Okay, so we're going to hit that just with some sunflower oil, probably about a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons, depending on how many you're making. A real big pinch of the best quality sea salt you can find. It's going to help draw that moisture out and crisp them up. And then some freshly ground black pepper. I'm just going to knock up my favourite naked slaw. It's just red onion, carrot, apple, a little bit of parsley, some apple cider vinegar and a pinch of salt. That's it. It's reading that it's hit 28 degrees internal. Just having a look here. Oh, we've got some fat coming through. I think a little bit of that burrata might be escaping. I'm just going to use some of this oil, this natural oil, to brush back on to the top. Still not quite ready to add our sauce, but it's looking really good. Right, it's ready to drop these on now. We're about halfway through the cook. So in we go with our wedges. And then it's also time to start to glaze up this chicken with my apple barbecue sauce. You can use any barbecue sauce you like, you know, but this is obviously the one I'm going to use. Just scooping up those juices as we go. And then just going to keep layering that on for the back end of the cook. It's had the time to get the smoke into the skin. So now the glazing begins. Right, we're there for the chicken. Oh, look at that. Beautiful British corn on the cob. It's the only time of the year you'll really see me cooking this, just when it's in season here. You can see the husks have just been pulled off. Just going to let those char up for a minute, and we're going to finish those with a little bit of my barbecue sauce as well. It's going to glaze the side that's just been introduced to the fire for the first time, while the other side cooks a little. Finish these corn with a little bit of manchego cheese all over while they're still hot, just in case there's no cheese left inside that chicken. Got to get our cheese hit somewhere, so don't be shy with that. Says that we're ready. Perfect timing, everything's here. So all we need to do now is slice this up and see what's going on inside. Now we've lost some of that cheese, there's no question there. All of those juices though are the bonus of us popping it into the skillet. Remove the meter that's done its job. And I'm just gonna take away these strings, which should just pull out. So here's the moment we've all been waiting for. Well, it's cut through that skin with no bother at all. It looks like we might just pull this off. There's still some of that beautiful cheese in the middle. You can see that chicken breast there, followed by our beautiful sausage meat. And we've still got some burrata in the middle too. That looks insanely good. It smells amazing, but that's all good. But the whole bird is wrapped up in here with the sausage, with the cheese, with all that extra seasoning. It's gonna be delicious. Right, let's have a little go then. I've got a bit of everything here. So, Oh, mate, so much going on there. The sausage and the apple sauce, first of all, that sweetness and kind of, it's allowed it to be so juicy still, like having so much fat put inside that chicken within the sausage. The burrata still adds value, even though it's cooked out, you know. It sort of like gives it that kind of tangy freshness. The chicken is cooked perfectly. The skin bite through, as you can see, like that. Look how thin that skin is after we took all this, the fat out. This is a winner. These juices go to waste. The perfect dip for these wedges. Oh, man. So good. Deboned, rolled, and stuffed chicken, smoked on the Kamado, and nailed with the Meter Plus. Trust me, give this a go. It's from Train. I'm Adam from El Shropshire Lad. See you next time.